Action! What do you get when you cross Uruguayan horror maestro Fede Alverez with the iconic Alien franchise? Something frickin' awesome. Alvarez was handed the reins of the 7th installment of the franchise, which happens to be an interquel. What's an interquel? I'm glad you asked. Back in 1979, we got the OG of the franchise, the classic from Ridley Scott, starring the GOAT Sigourney Weaver as Ripley. It's one of the greatest sci-fi movies of all time.
How do we kill it? You're gone.
Then in 1986, Terminator director James Cameron said, "Hold my beer," and he gave us Aliens, which was one of the best movies of the 1980s and featured this iconic moment from Sigourney Weaver.
Get away from her, you bitch!
Sigourney got an Oscar nomination for her performance in that film. That's how good it was. It was always going to be hard to maintain that level of quality, so it was no surprise Alien 3 in 1992 didn't live up to its predecessors, even with a legend like Fight Club director David Fincher at the helm. Fincher subsequently disowned the film, citing studio interference. You can make the case the 4th film in the franchise, Alien Resurrection, written by Joss Whedon, was a little better, but not by much. Sigourney was still there though, and still the GOAT, and it also had Winona Ryder. Fans then had to wait 15 years for Prometheus, a prequel which also saw the return of Ridley Scott to the director's chair. Yes, there were a lot of comic books, computer games, and some Predator collabs in the meantime, but this canon is already convoluted enough, so we're not going down that rabbit hole. Prometheus introduced us to the Engineers, a species of giant albino world creators, and also gave us Michael Fassbender as a synthetic human, a role he was born to play.
Big things have small beginnings.
Despite no one really understanding what the F was going on in that movie, it was a vibe. That vibe was continued in the prequel sequel, Alien Covenant, in 2017, also directed by Ridley Scott, which proved the only thing better than one Fassbender android was 2 Fassbender androids. Hey, it worked for Jean-Claude Van Damme in Double Impact, right? Covenant went a little further in explaining the role of the Engineers in the overarching Alien canon, but the final answers were coming in a 3rd sequel prequel, which never got made. Instead, Disney bought 20th Century Fox and decided to go in a different direction, giving us Alien Romulus, that they have shoehorned into the timeline between Alien and Aliens. And that, folks, is an interquel. Okay, so now we know where Romulus fits into the franchise. What is it about? Well, think of it a bit like the recent Ghostbusters reboot or the Daisy Ridley Star Wars movies that basically just retold the original movies with a younger cast. Not only is it an easy way to refresh a franchise, it opens up a lot of marketing opportunities on the old tickety-tock. Here you've got a bunch of youngsters on a far-flung mining colony planet looking to escape to a better life on another world.
Is this really where you want to spend the rest of your life?
You know I don't.
Their best chance is an old abandoned space station floating in orbit that contains the critical equipment needed for an interstellar voyage.
There she is. You want to break in and steal highly regulated equipment.
This could be our only ticket out of here.
But there's one catch. It's not just any old space station, it's the property of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, which fans of the franchise know doesn't have the best luck when it comes to workplace accidents involving killer aliens.
Stop playing around, man. Just get up.
I'm not playing around. There's something in the water.
What do you mean there's something in
I
the
don't
water?
know. There's just something in the fucking water.
What Alvarez does really well, though, is keeping said aliens off the screen until you start to care about his characters. Starting with Rain, played by Cailee Spaeny, who has some serious range as an actor, just coming from playing Priscilla Presley in a Sofia Coppola movie. Instead of parents, she has an android called Andy to keep an eye on her, who is played by industry's David Jonsson in an absolute scene stealer of a performance. The dude is amazing. Also along for the ride is Isabela Merced, who once upon a time played Dora the Explorer. spoiler alert, Dora gonna see some shit on this exploration. Pretty soon, it becomes a race for survival, as this young crew battle the various life stages of the iconic xenomorph. Now, I could go back to the whiteboard to explain, but instead, let's hear it from David Attenborough.
Here we have a facehugger, an alien parasite that latches to its victim's face before spawning into the host's esophagus with its long, slimy baby maker.
Okay, that's enough of that. After the facehugger, you get the chest burster, which is the juvenile xenomorph that knocks on the inside of the ribcage a few times while it waits for the host to gather their mates so they can witness the gross eruption from the chest cavity. Then it scurries away to rapidly grow into a full-size xenomorph which exists to kill or capture other creatures to become hosts for more facehuggers, and thus the circle of life continues. Under Alvarez's keen eye for horror, this whole life cycle gets a whole new gory rebirth with some of the most stomach-turning moments the franchise has seen since the first two movies. But the director has also made one hell of a stunning sci-fi movie, and I'm talking stunning like Interstellar. Unfortunately, Alvarez doesn't quite stick the landing, and the final act falls short of the promise of the rest of the film. But it has great performances from Spaeny and Jonsson, and a heap of callbacks to the first two films in particular. Seriously, this was a film made by a fan of the franchise, and that's all fans can really ask for. Alien Romulus gets 3.5 stars.
And cut.